So let's move on to the third type of questions in Criterion D, which is type 3 comparison and money questions. November 2017 tax calculations. We have two scenarios of income versus expenses for going abroad or staying in your home country. And we will also learn how to calculate taxes. Now, since this is something that we have not seen before or learned before, the examiner is going to teach you the entire tax calculation process for a given salary by using the video link. So watching videos is really important. It basically teaches you how to follow instructions, which is the basic concept of algorithms. So we watched the video and we learned how to calculate taxes for a specific salary, and now we are going to put that practice to use. We have a salary of 80,000 euros per year. What's the tax gonna be for it? So you divide the salary into multiple bands. Okay, so if you go above this band, it's 0% tax. If lying in 6,000 to all the way till 12,000, the tax is 5.5%. How do you show it? Upper limit minus lower limit multiplied by 5.5%. You get your answer. Again, upper limit minus lower limit multiplied by 14%. You can see the limits. It's 80,000, so this complete category will also be taken into account. Upper limit minus lower limit multiplied by 30%. So even if somebody did not see the video due to any reason, he could have seen what's happening and replicate the steps, follow instructions, algorithms, learn from what the examiner is teaching you. Again, this has never been taught in any school, so learn from it. Okay, 80,000 above 70,000 means upper limit minus lower limit 70,000 multiplied by 41%. You get your answer. Total means add everything. So add all the small bands of taxes and you'll get the total 19,750. The two scenarios are provided. Number one, you do not relocate to another home country and you stay in your home country. These are the expenses, and this is your income right over here, which is 40,000 per year. Per annum means per year. And for the second scenario, again, you're given your income and you're given all of your expenses. So you want to make sure and you want to decide which scenario is better. So let's try and look at the bullet points. Identify the relevant elements. Elements means factors that you will consider while comparing the two scenarios. You're going to consider the costs, you're going to consider the income, and you're going to consider other factors also, like your family or the place that you are relocating to, because that also matters, and that's logical. Even if that wasn't mentioned anywhere, it's totally logical. Okay, when you say cost and expenses, just do mention what do you mean by them. Okay, income, expenses, and so on. Make appropriate calculations to make a decision. All right, let's talk about the home country. So always talk about annual, because tax rate is annual, salary is annual. If these are monthly, multiply them by 12. Okay, so first of all, expenses for the home country. You know that the income for the whole country is 40,000, right? The tax, we can easily calculate it, as we've learned from the video. For a tax of 40,000, do the math again, and again do the math, just like it was done in the table previously. I did it and I get my answer as 6650. Other expenses, all of these expenses which are monthly, 400, 900, 500, I'm going to multiply them by 12 and add them. Really easy. Medical is free. This concludes all of the expenses for this scenario. So the total income minus the total expenses, these are my savings. All right. Relocation, my salary is 50,000. My tax has already been calculated. I don't need to calculate it. As you can clearly see, annual tax. This is ambiguous. I don't know how many return journeys I'm going to make. This means that if the question has a bullet point of accuracy, I can label this point as something ambiguous, something as an estimate, something as inaccurate, because no one told me how many visits to make to my home country. Okay, so do keep that in mind. But I'm just gonna assume a number. Let's say one trip every year to my home country. Okay, so when I do that, I get an answer of the income minus all of the expenses. Again, all of the expenses need to be multiplied by 12 and then added, and you subtract them and you get 15,240. Bullet number 3, justify the accuracy. So justify the accuracy, again, it's not accurate. Why? Because most of these costs can vary. You know, the country that we live in, or any country that we live, our rents vary, our medical expenses vary. We might get ill, or we might run into an accident. The medical bills will vary, the electricity or other bills will vary. My journey to the home country, like what if an emergency happens, I have to visit like 5 times in a year. It can happen. So this is also ambiguous. Okay, so most of these costs, most of these values are changeable, if we call it that way. All right, which means number of journeys can vary, expenses can vary, monthly expenses are estimates, they can vary, which means all of my answers are not accurate. Make your decision to relocate or not relocate with a reason. All right, let's look at the answers. I will relocate because I will end up saving how much more? Subtract both of these answers and mention that you're gonna save almost 400 euros or something more in a year if you relocate. So let's look at our answers. I will relocate because I will make more money even if I come to visit my family home like once a year or once a month or something. I will relocate because I will make more money and gain more experiences by moving. I will not relocate because even though I will be making this much amount of more money, it's not much compared to staying with family. So the family point, the examiner has given that weightage. So this was one of those options where you could select both choices, but they need to be accompanied with a reason. And this finishes November 2017 tax calculations. All right, so let's continue. We now move on to our second question, November 21 statistics comparison based on answers of stats. So stats is basically occurring a lot in criteria D questions. So we're gonna have two routes over here, the mountain route and the land route, and basically two families are gonna travel each of the routes and we're gonna compare. And our comparison is going to be mathematical in nature as well as descriptive in nature based on the video and the information given to us. So this is all the script that we have, and we also have the video for it. So we have two families who traveled from this location to this location. One family Kane chooses the mountain route, family Fry changes the Cimarron route. Okay, so family Fry chooses this route and it's a desert. They have to carry food supplies and water. Every food barrel is this much pounds, 30 pounds. Every water barrel is 44 pounds. Okay, so there are some conditions. The total weight of supplies, like the total weight of supplies, meaning all the food barrels and all the water barrels, they can't be more than 1200 pounds. You need at least 7 water barrels. So you can be 7, you cannot be less than 7, you can be more than 7. Okay, and the number of water barrels was at most twice the number of food barrels. So you can't have more water barrels than that. At most means at most. You need to be lower than that. So this is a condition which is a maximum. You need to be lower than this, you need to be lower than this, and you need to be above this. So when we look at our inequalities, there is one line from which we need to be above and there are two lines with which we need to be below. So it gives me the impression that this can be the area that I need. But the only problem with this with this scenario over here is I know that one of the axes is W and I know the other axis is F. F means food, W means water, but it's not labeled. So I need to come up with my own judgment of what the x-axis is and what the y-axis is. So the water barrels can be at least 7. So W is at least 7. Focus on a horizontal line or a vertical line. W equals to 7. This can either be horizontal or vertical. I see a horizontal line. This clarifies that Y equals to 7. W equals to 7. The y-axis is W, which is water. Confusion cleared. Okay. So that is this constraint over here, and I need to be above this. Done. Now looking at the other constraints, now when I need to be above this, in my head I have placed these arrows so that I know what I'm gonna do, and this is the option that I choose. Water barrels need to be greater than or equal to 7. Now look at the second constraint, which is the third one, which is W equals to 2F. The water barrels like can be at most twice as the food barrels, as they say. So This has to be a straight line with the y-intercept of 0, because y equals to 2x, w equals to 2f. It's something like that. And how do I know that? I can see this. Okay, so first have an equation sign to basically visualize what that means, and use y and x to basically understand what the equation is going to look like. So y equals to 2x. There is no plus c over here, which means you have a straight line that passes through the 0, which is this line, and you need to be lower than that. So for it to be lower, y should be facing the sign, which is the closed alligator face. The closed clip sign should be facing the y. So that is why w is less than or equal to 2f, and you're gonna choose this. And obviously the third line belongs over here, and again y needs to be lower. Y should be facing the lower sign, because I know two of the inequalities had to be the lower signs. Okay, so we are just gonna select this 30f plus 44 w is less than or equal to 1200. We know that the total weight of all of the barrels, which is 30 for each food barrel and 44 for each water barrel, if I add them, the total should be less than 1200 pounds. So we know that we are going to shade this. So the region is over here, and that is our answer. Okay, so make links, make connections, try to figure out things that might seem a bit different, but at the end of the day, it's sort of an MCQ which needs some calculation, some understanding, but make sure that you do it correct. Okay, using the information, find the maximum weight of food and water that the wagon can carry. Okay, so finding the maximum, whenever you have a linear inequality sort of a diagram and the region is specified and you want to find the maximum or minimum, always use the corner points. So I can choose this combination to find the maximum weight the barrel can carry. I can find this combination of food and water barrels. I can have this combination of food and water barrels. Okay, so if I choose this point over here, 10.17 and 20.34, you know barrels can't be decimals, right? So let's choose 10 and 20 as the number of barrels of food and water respectively. When I choose this, I get an answer of 1180, and I guarantee you, if you choose this combination or this combination, you will get a lower answer than 1180. So I need the maximum possible. This is the maximum possible. So this is 10 food barrels and 20 water barrels. It gives me this maximum possible answer. Case closed. Okay, so the family has to cross this river, but the bridge from A to C is broken, so they have to come to the right and then come to the left. Okay, so can you find this distance B to C? Again, this is a right angle triangle. The angle is given to us. Why don't we just use trigonometry? This is opposite. This is a hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse linked with SOH, which is SOH. Sine of 53 is BC over 1.25. Do the math. Get your answer. 0.998 is your final answer. Okay. Determine how far the family traveled to get to A from the start of the route. So this plus this. So instead of this, which was a shorter route, you now have to take the longer route, which is this and this. Okay, so just add them. Easy. 10 marks. Family Fry chose this route. A summary of their journey is illustrated below. Cumulative frequency. Think of all the questions that you can be asked with a cumulative frequency curve. The median, the quartiles, the mean, literally anything. You have a table associated with the cumulative frequency curve. You know that a cumulative frequency curve is made by a table looking like this, but this is not cumulative, it's just frequency. So imagine as if cumulative was mentioned over here. Your first unknown is this box. You need to find this box, and you need to find all of these boxes to be able to attempt the calculation part of the big bullet point question. So let's first do the calculations, and then I'm gonna well, let's just follow the order. Okay, three relevant factors that will affect your decision to choose a path, or maybe tell about the similarities or difference between the paths or whatever. So factors: length of route. The length of each route is different. The number of days of the trip, it's different for both of the routes, as I can see over here. The number of days and the number of days over here as well, they will be different. The amount of goods they're able to carry for trading. Well, obviously in the video you know that both of the routes have separate advantages and disadvantages for trading, and the whole purpose of this trip by both families is to trade. The terrain features, we know that they are different. One route is a land route which with the deserts, and the other is mountainous route with the tough terrain. So relevant factors, okay, what are the factors that are going to affect your decision to choose a particular route? All of these things. Does the route have food and water availability? The video specifically mentions which route has and which route does not have. Okay. Calculations. Now let's find all of the calculations. Okay, you want to find first this unknown. So if I somehow know the total, I can subtract all the numbers from the total and get this unknown, right? So I know that the total is 26. So subtract all of these numbers from 26, you can get this answer. Or you can do it the hard way, which is make a line at 8, get the answer of 10. Make a line at 4, get the answer of 3. So this gap of 10 and 3, which is 7, this is my answer. How much frequency have I crossed from 4 all the way till 8? While traveling from 4 till 8 on the x-axis, how much frequency have I crossed? You've crossed from 3 to 10. That's a frequency of 7. Two methods, both of them illustrated over here really clearly. Okay, done. Method number 1 shown, method number 2 shown clearly. Now that we have this table, I can estimate what the mean is. How do you find the mean from this sort of a table? Make the mid value column, multiply with the frequency. The sum is going to be the numerator. The sum of the frequency is the denominator. Easy. I've done that. Modal class. Which class is the mode? This class. Okay. Just fill it in. The median class. Which class is no. Estimate for the median, not the median class. How do you find the median from a cumulative frequency? The half of the frequency, that's 26. Half of 26 is 13. Go to 13 on the y-axis, come down to the x-axis, you get your answer, 9 miles. Okay. Estimate the mean, done, literally done. Now I have the mean as 8.769, but what is the total number of days? I know that's a 26, which is the denominator of the mean. So the total distance traveled, obviously this is mean distance traveled. So what should be the total? The total is basically the sum of something, right? So mean is sum over count. So average distance traveled is equal to total distance traveled divided by total days. It's common sense that the numerator of the mean is the total distance traveled. And if you want to be sure that that formula or that algorithm works, why don't you divide 502 by 39? You'll get the answer of the mean, which clearly shows for the mean, this is the numerator, this is the denominator. Okay. Now with both of these values and the description about the terrain, which is given to you in the diagrams above, that this is fruitful for trading, this is not fruitful for trading, there is food and water available, there's no food and water available, just like over here. Okay. Compare the similarities and differences between the two routes. So tell about the mean. Is the same or different? So mention the values and tell which is bigger, which is smaller for which route. Mention the median, mention the mode, mention the total number of days, mention the distance, mention the trading facility, mention the food and water facility, mention everything, mention all the values. Okay. Degree of accuracy, again, not accurate. Whenever you estimate the mean, estimate the median, come on, estimations, inaccurate. Mean, whenever you calculate it from the mid values, it's inaccurate, and you need to mention the mean. It was an estimate because I used the mid interval values. The median is an estimate because we used the cumulative frequency to calculate it, which is again inaccurate. It's an estimate. Okay. So comparison we've already done, and make sure for the comparison you mention about the roughness of the route and the trading and the availability of goods. Okay. So the mean and the total distance traveled were just estimates because we are using mid-interval values, and there are many things which can be unaccounted for, so most of these things are estimates. Okay. And this finishes November 2021. Okay, on to the next question. All right, so on to May 23, which is a question based on quadratics and some modeling, but it's mainly about money, income versus expenses for two scenarios. So we need all of the income calculations or the money coming in or the profit calculations and all of the costs and expenses, and we need to compare them for two scenarios, which are investing in technology and not investing in technology. So we start this question. It's about carbon markets and so on, industrial emissions and so on. Okay. So this is an industrial organization, and the organization predicts that it is going to make these carbon emissions for the next 8 years. Okay, but the government level of emission, like the government limit of emission, is basically this. So it's natural to assume that if the factory is emitting more than the government limit, it has to pay some tax or some fine. Okay, so let's look at that. We have the equation of the government's limit. We know it's a quadratic equation, so it has to be in some vertex form or something like that. Okay, so it's some form close to the vertex form. Okay, E is the y variable, the y and x is basically number of years after 2022. It's represented by small n, and a is a constant. Okay, so first of all, show that a is 0.4. It is another repeated question. If I want to find the value of a, there are two other symbols also, e and n. So I need to insert a value that lies on my curve to find a. So choose the easiest point, which is this one, 0 comma 120. So when I choose this, e is 120, n is 0, do the math, move things left and right, and you'll show your answer as 0.4. Even if I was not able to show this answer, I should be using this answer in the calculations to follow, because I will be needing it. Okay, so do not skip the questions that are to follow. Next, determine the annual carbon emissions, meaning find E. The year has to be given to me if I am to find E. So E, find E when n is 2024. Don't plug in 2024 here. Years after 2022, which means 22, 23, and 24. Okay, so plug in a 2. Plug n equals to 2 when E is unknown. Find E when n is 2. Basic question, plug it in, get your answer, 105.6. It is given over here. So you go down. If the company does not invest in technology, obviously its pollution limits are way above the government's allowed limits, so it will have to buy additional carbon units from the carbon market. That's the process of paying the tax. Every carbon unit is going to be $60,000 per 1,000 kilotons. So can you tell me the cost of carbon units this company will have to buy? So depending on the emission that this guy the company does, it's gonna have to pay that much tax. Okay, so the company emits 120 kilotons. The government limit on this 2024 year, like this 2024 year, the government limit is 105.6. The company is emitting 120. If you can find the gap between 105.6 and 120, you can know the excess pollution that the company is emitting, and then you can multiply that excess pollution in kilotons by 60,000, because 1 kiloton is 60,000. 14.4 kilotons is gonna be, just multiply by 60,000 and you're gonna get that answer. Okay. Alright, Jamet has installed filters which reduces their annual carbon emissions to 90 kilotons. So now your carbon emissions are not this, they are at 90 kilotons. So common sense. For how many years are you now safe? For how many years are the carbon emissions below the limit set by the government, or for how many years you're not supposed to give any tax? You can look at it from the graph and answer and just say, for 5 years I'm safe. Or I think it's really simple. Find n. How many years? Find n when E is 90. It's as simple as that. Okay. So when E is 90, find n. You put it over here. You move the 80 on this side. It becomes 90 minus 80, which is 10. Okay. You divide the 0.4 over here. Again, you get 25. Take a square root on both sides. You get plus minus. You'll get one answer as n equals 5. Make sure your answer lies within the domain of 0 to 8. We saw the domain characteristic in November 2022 also. Okay, the AI question. Really simple. Look at the diagram or do the calculations, your choice. Okay, so Hajima is another organization reviewing its carbon emissions. They have two scenarios. One is do not install filters, all right, and the other is install filters. So let's look at the first scenario. If you do not install filters, you need to buy a total of these many carbon units. That's all the scenario that you have. Okay, so one carbon unit is 60,000. Okay, sorry, one carbon unit is 60,000 as mentioned previously. 222 carbon units, the cost is going to be this much, which is 1320000. In millions it's going to be this much. All right, case closed. Scenario 1 completely done. What if you install filters? The first cost is going to be the cost of the filters, which is $14 million. All right, but the second cost is going to be calculated by studying the graph. So studying the graph is basically told to us just like this. Okay, so you know that we needed the gaps to basically find out how much fine to pay, right? So by investing in technology, we can clearly see that the company's emissions for at least 4 years are below the government's limits, but afterwards, like after 4 years, the company's emissions are above the government limits, meaning over here the company is in a position to sell carbon units and earn a profit, but over here it again has to buy carbon units and pay the price. Okay, so this is the table that we need to fill. Now I haven't been taught how to fill tables like these ever, but the first few values are already filled over here and over here, and we can learn how they are filled. So let's learn. Difference means subtraction of something. Difference in what? Carbon emissions. Where is carbon emissions given? The y-axis. Difference in carbon emissions 28. So difference in carbon emissions, difference in the y coordinates. Subtract 105 with 77, you will get 28. How do you convert carbon emissions in kilotons into value? Multiplied by 60,000. When you do that, you get an answer of 168, 4 zeros, but it's 1.68 over here. The unit is millions. Million means 1 with 6 zeros. So divide this answer by a million, 1 with 6 zeros, and you will get 1.68. Now you understand the logic behind these tables. So find the differences, subtraction, 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 and multiply all of these differences by 60,000 and convert them to millions by dividing by a million, and you will get your answer. Okay, filled in the table. All right, so the tables are going to be filled for us to do the calculations. Now for the calculations, I'll come back to the factors later. Okay, for the calculations, this is the earning zone, this is the buying zone, this is the costs. Okay, so I need to look at the marking key to show you the final answers. So over here the final answers are going to be as follows over here. Okay, so clearly I filled in all the tables. So the total value in millions for selling the carbon units and earning is 3.9 million, and the total value of buying the carbon units is 2.1 million. So the total cost for scenario 2 is gonna be the cost of the filters, which was given to us in the question. Okay, the cost of the filters plus this cost, 2.1 million, minus the 3.9 that you earned, and you will get a total cost, which I think, I don't know, it's gonna be something close to 12.2 million. Okay, I think that's gonna be the answer. You can just calculate it yourself. So scenario 1 gave you the result of the total cost as 13.2 million. Scenario 2, after taking in the cost of the filters and all of the income and expenses from the pollution, it's 12.2. The cost from scenario 1 is higher, the cost from scenario 2 is lower. So what will be your decision? Invest in technology, because the overall costs in that scenario are lower. You can't just say lower, you need to say how much lower. Subtract these values and say $1.12 million lower. Okay, that's gonna be your justification for the choice you make. Factors, really simple. This is a factor. The emissions are a factor. The government limits are a factor. Literally anything that affects any cost up there is a factor. Okay, so we go to the marking key and study all of the factors which are gonna be over here. So the filters, the carbon units, the emissions, the limits and restrictions and requirements, they're all factors. Okay, cost of technology is also a factor, whether you install filter or not. Okay, uh, recommendation, you will install filters because you will save this much amount. You need to mention that. Okay, do not say not install filters, that's a weak reason. Okay, they're all listed in weak reasons, don't do that. And the last bullet point is going to be accuracy. Again, not accurate. How do I know that? You see this word approximately? Again, can't do it, man. How are you able to assume that this number which has approximately written will give you an accurate answer? And number two, will this number stay the same for 8 years? Not possible with inflation. How are you able to predict that your company is gonna keep on emitting 77 kilotons every year for the next 8 years? Is that possible? No. The government limits can also change. If they change, the differences change. If the differences change, everything changes. The cost of technology, well, that's a one-time expense. Let's not bring that into account. Okay, so everything that can change, that is your accuracy point, and that finishes your question. So costs and earnings, just balance them for the two scenarios and select the scenario which has a lower cost. That's the rational thing to do, and this finishes our question of May 23. Okay, so we move on to our next question, which is November 23, about money. Again, income versus expenses for some facilities. So this is our question over here. We have buildings designed for apartments living, apartment living, provide homes for many individuals and families within a defined space. The table below shows the information about the number of residents in each group in a building. So we have the data in a frequency table with class intervals and obviously mode, mean, median, it's all there. Again, we've done it a lot. So the model class is this, just write it that way. We have the solution over here as well. We have anything like the median class or the mean. Again, the mean is also shown over here by the mid values and the product, and the sum of the product is again the numerator, the denominator is total frequency already given to us. Get your answer, and this is it. Okay, it's like the third or fourth time this question has been repeated. Show the proof of the mid values, at least type them out. Okay, don't draw the table if you don't want to, just type them out. Okay, this step is really important. All right, so we move forward. The building also provides an opportunity for residents to come together as a community in a recreational area. The recreational area is divided between a playground and a fitness center. The playground should be used by people 14 years and under, and above 14 years, that's a fitness center. All right, so obviously the 14-year limit gap lies in between this category of 10 to 20. So you need to break this category up into 10 to 14 and 14 to 20, right? Now this complete frequency of 72 is broken up or divided into these two categories in this ratio. So it's like I have a total of 9 equal packets or portions, and I have divided this 72 into 9 portions. 7 portions are given to this category, 2 portions are given to this category. 7 plus 2, that's 9. 72 divided by 9, I think that's 8. Okay, so 8 multiplied by 7, that is going to be this, the number of people in this category, and 8 divided by 2, that's going to be the number of people in this category. So can you tell that the total number of children allowed in the playground are 115? Everybody 14 or below is a child. Okay, so 59 plus the people that I spoke about over here, they are all children. So let's see the calculation for this. So the interval of this frequency is divided into two parts, that is going to be 56 and 16, and that's basically it. So we have our answer over here. So 7 multiplied by 8, which is the same as like the same as 56. So 14 years and under means the first category from 0 to 10 and from 10 to 14. 59 plus 56, this is a 56. Okay, this category belongs to the fitness center. So when you add them, you get an answer of 155, which is shown. This was a show that question. Even if you were not able to get this answer, you need to use this 115 number in your next calculations. Okay, that's it. You are responsible for making calculations for the recreational area. You have an annual fee for per apartment, and there are 90 apartments, so you can tell about what the total is going to be. And from this fee, only 15% is going to be spent for the recreational area. So can you tell about the total annual maintenance budget for the recreational area? So first find the total by multiplying 1400 multiplied by 90, and then find the 15% of it. It's really simple. Okay, so total budget is 1400 multiplied by 90. 15% of it is on the recreational area. Find 15% of it. That's your answer. 18990. This is budget, means this is the income that you basically have, the money that you have to maintain. It's not the cost, it's the money that you have. Okay, budget, it's like income, it's like money that you have, and cost is something else. You need to balance them. All right. So this is the data related to the cost. The playground requirements are 15 meter cube for every meter square for every 6 children, and the monthly maintenance cost for every square meter of the playground is this for 14 years and under. And for the maintenance cost of the fitness center, it's really simple. If you have these many people attending the fitness center, this will be the cost. If you have these many people attending the fitness center, this is the cost. If you have these many people in the fitness center, this is the cost. It's just a fixed answer. There's no multiplication needed. There's no nothing needed. Okay, so let's start. Use your results from the earlier parts and the information provided and answer the following questions. All right, let me go back to the original image. Clearly identify 3 relevant factors. So all of the factors that are gonna affect your decision, the budget and the costs and literally the people, like literally everything. How many people attend the playground or the fitness center, or what's the cost for the like every square meter. This cost for every 6 children. The area of playground required, like literally anything you can think of. The thing that affects the budget, which is number of apartments, the annual fee. Again, everything affects your decision. All right, so you can write down literally anything, the number of children or the users of the playground, the number of users of the fitness center, the area needed per child, the costs, literally everything. Okay, and there are many other factors also. You can check them out yourself by pausing the video. Calculations. So make calculations for the playground, make calculations for the total maintenance cost of the recreational area, and like that the recreational area consists of a playground and a fitness center. So you want the calculations for the playground separately, you want the calculations for the fitness center separately, and then add the calculations for both. Okay, to have an overall picture. So calculations for the playground. You know that 6 children require 15 meter square area. Can you find out how much will 115 children require? Again, it's cross multiplication. Just find that out. This is the area required for 115 children to play in the playground. 1 meter cube square area costs $2. So this much area costs, multiply, $575. Right, this is monthly cost. Again, monthly. The relationship between monthly and annual was tested in the tax question. It is tested over here now. So multiply by 12. This is the annual cost for the playground. For the fitness center, how many people in the fitness center do we have? The total frequency of 331 minus 115 children, you have 216 people. You fall into the category of, let's look at the image, you fall in the category of 201 to 300. So your cost is at 1200. Simple as that. That's annual cost. That's not monthly. No, that was monthly cost. Yeah, that's monthly cost. So you multiply it by 12. I correct my mistake. I think I made it in the previous sentences also. You multiply that by 12 and your answer is 14,400. So now the total cost, obviously show suitable rounding. I don't think there's any rounding needed. Justify the suitability of the budget. Is this budget suitable? Is this budget that you calculated, annual budget, is it suitable? So first add the total cost. Total annual cost for the playground and the fitness center comes out to be 21300. But the budget overall is this. The costs are more than the budget. The costs are $2,400 more than the budget. I do the subtraction, okay? Which means that the budget is insufficient and unsuitable as it falls short by $2,400. Now, don't leave your answer like this. Please propose some suggestions to make sure that this difference is alleviated, because this is a bad condition to be in. Why don't you increase the maintenance budget or allot it a larger percentage than 15%, or somehow decrease the costs? This is the only way of making sure this negative balance is met. And this finishes your question of November 2023, the money question. Okay. All right. So moving on to the final question, May 24. It's about statistics. Not much about money, but it's going to be comparison based on your answers from statistics. Okay, so another comparison question from this category, and let's do it. So you have some data about two tropics. One is the Cancer and Capricorn, and there are some countries that lie on the Tropic of Cancer. There are some countries that lie on the Tropic of Capricorn. They're mentioned over here. So first we need to label some of the correlation descriptions. So whenever the curve rises up, it's positive. Whenever it falls down, it's negative. Whenever it does not do anything, it's none. The closer the points are, the stronger it gets. The more spaced out the points are, the weaker or normality, like the weaker or the normal it gets. Okay. So strong positive, strong negative, negative positive, none. Okay, and that is basically your answer over here if I show that to you in this solution document. All right, so your next question is basically about, this is the life expectancy for the Tropic of Capricorn, like the 11 countries there. Now since this is data which is not in a frequency table, it's just raw data. You want to first find the missing values of the box plot. This is the median, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, the minimum, the maximum, and the mode. So range is maximum minus minimum, interquartile range is upper quartile minus lower quartile. Okay, so we know that the definitions of all of them. The median is the middle value of the 11 plus 1 over 2, that's the sixth term. This is the median. The median has divided your data into 5 terms on the left and 5 terms on the right. So the middle of 5 terms, the third term, lower quartile. The middle of these 5 terms, the third term, upper quartile. Max is 85, minimum is 59, and basically that's it. Lower quartile easy, upper quartile easy, minimum maximum done. Subtraction of these two gives us the range, and upper quartile minus lower quartile gives us the interquartile range, which is 18. Okay, so mode, we know the most repeated value, that's a 59. We can clearly see that. Range easy, interquartile range easy again. So 10 marks. Let's go forward. So far really simple, really simple. The life expectancy on the Tropic of Capricorn is higher than the expectancy of the Tropic of Cancer. This is just like the news headline in the May 2018 question of the population of Australia, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna ask us to verify whether this headline is true or not. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a repeated question. So this is the data for the life expectancy from 1950 to 2020 for Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer. Okay, and this is the data for Tropic of Capricorn. This is for Tropic of Cancer. For the Tropic of uh, Capricorn, we already have all of these answers. For the Tropic of Cancer, we have all of these answers again. Uh, so we can compare. There is only one thing that we don't have for the Tropic of Capricorn, that is the mean, and you might need to calculate that on your own, and it's very easy to calculate that because we have these numbers. Again, linking information, because at the end of the day, when I'm going to compare both of these tropics, compare their data, I need to compare everything: the mode, the quartiles, the ranges, the interquartile ranges, the median, the mean, everything. So I need to calculate the mean in order to compare it. Okay, identify the relevant elements for your comparison. Obviously the trend of the life expectancy over the years and the number of countries and all of that stuff. So you can mention all of that as your factors. Okay, so all of the data that you have, that is a factor. So the mean, median, mode, that is a factor. The range or the interquartile range, that is also a factor. Okay, and then the trend over the years or the line of best fit. Okay, so understand mean, median, mode fall into the same category of the average. That is why they have the same weightage as one single point, average. Okay, and this is spread. The range or the interquartile range tell about the spread of your data. The mean, median, mode tell about the center or the average of your data. These are measures of center or measures of central tendency or measures of average. This is the measure of spread or the measure of dispersion. Dispersion. Okay, those are your factors. Easy. Bullet number two. Bullet number two is comparison. Compare the measures of central tendency, meaning mean, median, mode, measures of dispersion, range and interquartile range, and any other relevant information between the two. Again, comparison. Comparison between the data. We've done that before many times. So compare everything. All right. I first find the mean for the Tropic of Capricorn because that was not given. Add all the values, divide by 11, 69.9. Compare the mean, compare the median, compare the mode, compare the range and interquartile range. When you compare anything, don't just say this is higher or this is lower. First mention the mean of the Tropic of Capricorn is this. The mean of the Tropic of Cancer is this. This value is higher than this value, which means the average of this tropic is higher than that tropic. Copy paste this sentence, just change the values, change the term number, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And for the range and IQR, when you say that the IQR for the Tropic of Capricorn is higher than Cancer, it means that the spread of life expectancies between countries in the Tropic of Capricorn is larger than the spread of life expectancy in the Tropic of Cancer. That is what you say, and copy paste that sentence for the range also. That's it. Easy. Last bullet point, as we expected. Sorry, second last. Comment on the headline. Is the headline true? The headline basically asked you to verify this statement. The life expectancy on the Tropic of Capricorn is higher than that in the Tropic of Cancer. Tropic of Capricorn is indeed higher than the Tropic of Cancer, but up to this year. Because after this year, you can clearly see it's lower. The blue dot is lower than the red dot. So up till 1990, the headline is true. After 1990, the headline is false. And you can also include the data from over here if this statement is false, because I can clearly see the headline says Tropic of Capricorn is higher, right? But the mean of Tropic of Cancer is higher again. So mean, median, mode, compare those and mention about the graph. The graph is really important. Now this is something which was a bit different. We normally from our decision we just choose the mathematical part and we just walk off by comparing them. We also had to look at the graph, the scatter plot. Okay, so that is going to be used in our comparison. Also, the headline is correct from 1980 till 1990 or 2000, but after this year the headline is incorrect because obviously the points go below. Any other similarities or differences, you need to mention that, as I mentioned the mean. Okay, justify the degree of accuracy of your answers. uh, in this case, both inaccurate and accurate were accepted. Let's read all of the answers. Inaccurate, as Capricorn only had 11 countries and the Tropic of Cancer did not have 11 countries. So when you don't have the same number of countries to compare, how can you have a fair comparison? Or let's say even if you had the same number of countries, the number of people in those countries are not the same. So how can you compare a country like USA with a country like Iceland? USA, one of the most populated countries in the world, one of the biggest countries in the world, and then Iceland, which does not even have like a comparative population. How can you compare their data? Inaccurate, as life expectancies were rounded, or inaccurate as the data is given to us to one decimal place. I think that can be written somewhere. Inaccurate, as image 1 does not indicate which averages graph. It does not show the mean, median, or life expectancy. Okay, that can be sure. uh, Inaccurate, as we don't know the number of people in each country. Inaccurate as the population of each country is different. Inaccurate as countries don't have the same number of people. Yeah. Accurate as the data given to us starts from 1950 until 2020, which is actually a lot of years. So when you have a lot of data spanning a lot of years, it's bound to be accurate. Like, it should have some strength in it. Accurate because I compared both the measures of central tendency and dispersion, and I used all of my answers correctly, and I made a solid result based on all the data. So yeah, it's accurate. Don't accept these reasons. Okay. Okay, so basically this was your answer, and this finishes this type of questions over here. There is also the fourth type, cross multiplication, but you can see its answer is really basic multiplication and division. That finishes our Criterion D series. So make sure that you understand that factors, bullet points, anything that will affect your purpose in that question, whether it's to compare, whether it's to select a choice, whether it's to make a design or whatever. Make the calculations, do the comparison, do plug and play, find the mean, median, mode ranges, fill in the tables, and so on. Make the design, select the scenario, uh, and also the comparison also includes the money, the cost, and the benefits, and so on, and then justify the accuracy, which is mostly going to be inaccurate. You already know you have three types. We've done the third type. Second type was the design questions. First type was line of best fit, modeling, point of intersection, and all of that stuff. Statistics is basically the most commonly occurring uh, topic over here, and then comes money and equations and quadratics and so on. Okay, and then the designing part can be literally anything. It's just basic math over there. So all the best, and hopefully you will do well in Criterion D.